Tashidilik, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Mayor Aftab Karma Singh Puriwal, but you can call me Karma. It is my Tibetan name, and I am incredibly proud to be Tibetan and incredibly proud to be here with all of you today. It is such a special treat to be here because the truth of the matter is, living in Cincinnati, Ohio, there's not very many Tibetans, not just in my city, but in my entire state. So when I get a chance to be with community, I'm always so eager to attend and to participate, and it's a real treat and honor to be with you. Tonight is about celebrating the legacy of the Chushi Gundruk, the brave men and women who stood for Tibet, for freedom, and for the simple belief that a people should have the right to determine their own future. Tonight, I want to tell a story about my grandfather. Not a story from a history book, not a story that most Americans have ever heard. It's a family story. My grandfather was a man named Tutup Gompo. He came from the Dege in Kham, and as a child, after his father died, he was taken into the household of the great Dege statesman Jago Topten and raised under his care. Later, my grandfather was sent by Jago Topten to be the Barchenpon, the leader of the Barchen people. And when Tibet came under attack, he joined the resistance and fought with the Chushi Gundruk and told stories of leading Tibetan fighters against Chinese positions in eastern Tibet, about laying siege and attacking forts, attacking roads and bridges, outposts, all in defense of his people and his family. Now, I cannot stand here and claim to know every single detail exactly as it happened. History is complicated. Memory is imperfect, particularly for a refugee community. But I do know this. My grandfather's story matters. He believed they were worth carrying forward. And all of our stories matter. And because he told them, and because my family repeated them and recorded them, I stand here today knowing something about who I am and where I came from, and what was sacrificed so that future generations might live in freedom. The truth is that many of our stories are not widely known. In America, people learn about the American Revolution, they learn about the Civil Rights Movement, they learn about the struggles that shaped this nation, but very few learn about the people of Kham. Very few learn about the Chushi Gundruk, very few learn about the families who lost everything but never surrendered their identity or their culture. For many Americans, Tibet begins and ends with a postcard image of mountains and monasteries. But we know better. We know that Tibetan history is not just a history of places, it is a history of people and their stories, of courage, of sacrifice, of families and humanity. And we do not tell those, and if we do not tell those stories, then no one will. Every family here has a story. A grandfather who fought, a grandmother who carried children across the Himalayas, parents who arrived in a new country with little more than hope. These stories may never appear in a textbook. They may never be made into a movie, but they are no less important because history survives when families choose to remember. And that is why I want to say something directly to the young Tibetan Americans in this room. Your heritage is not a burden. It is a gift. I know that it can be difficult to be Tibetan in a new country, specifically in this country. I was born and raised in a place called Beaver Creek, Ohio. If you don't think there are enough Tibetans in New York, I can promise you there are not enough Tibetans in Beaver Creek, Ohio. And so growing up was very confusing. Am I Tibetan? Am I Punjabi? Am I American? And of course, the answer is that you can be fully all of those things. You can honor the courage of your ancestors while building your own future. You can become teachers, entrepreneurs, artists, engineers, public servants, and even a mayor. You can speak for your community. You can tell stories that others haven't heard before, stories that challenge their preconceived notions. I think about that often in my own life. I serve in a public office in America. Every day I have the privilege of working to improve the city that I love. And whenever I think about public service, I think about those who came before me. I think about people who believed leadership was not about status, but about responsibility. Responsibility to your family, to your community, to future generations. That spirit did not begin with me. It was passed down from one generation to another, from Tibet to the United States, from grandparents to grandchildren. I didn't know my grandfather very well. My grandparents settled as refugees in Kathmandu, and so I would visit him sporadically during the summer breaks. But I can't help but be impacted by the fact that as a Barchumpong, as a Chushigundruk fighter, he devoted himself to public service. And even though his story and my story are a world apart, a culture apart, I'm struck by the consistency that exists in my own family and that consistency that exists in all of your families. It may look different, it may be a different language, it may be in a different country, but that sense of responsibility and of leadership is something that I know is inherent in all of us. And it truly does now belong to us. The generation that fought for Tibet is growing older. The generation that remembers life before exile is becoming smaller, which means the responsibility is now ours to tell the stories, record the interviews, write down the names, and save the photographs. Ask your parents, your grandparents, ask the elders in your community, because once a story is lost, it cannot live forever. But when a story is shared, it is forever. Tonight, as we honor the Chushigundruk, let us honor not only the famous names, but also the thousands of families whose stories have never been written down. Let us honor the fighters, the survivors. Let us honor the storytellers. And let us promise that the next generation of Tibetan Americans will know where they come from, what was sacrificed on their behalf, and what is possible when courage is passed from one generation to the next. Tashi Gyalek, Tujiche.